everybody. This is Abdul, Project Cardboard. Today I'm going to be making a cutaway model of the F-117 Nighthawk. Now I've made 3 Nighthawks so far, and this is the 3rd one I do believe, and it's to be the best one hopefully. So the idea is to make it a little like unfinished, as if it's being built. So if you saw my last video, I made a mistake, so I had to rebuild this, so I'm rebuilding it. And as you can see, it's coming along quite well. I made it, I cut out the horny piece, and actually little issues like that is actually really good, because when I rebuilt it, it came out better than the first time. So I'm glad it broke and I got to rebuild that, because now it's looking so much better. So you can see the details there. I tried to make it more clean. I even revised the templates a little, so I could added the boxes for the wheels to come out of, and I started to trace on top so that I can lay that on top to give a base to put everything else on. So using my hot glue gun, I glued that piece of paper that I had on top of the main bottom hull part of the F-117 Nighthawk. And the paper I'm using is 100-pound cardstock. It's a really thick cardstock. It's like as thick as a card or something, and it gives a lot of structure, a lot of strength to the part that you're making. So as always, I like to add a bit of cardboard in there just for some weight, because when your model has some weight to it, it feels more high quality or whatever. So I just threw some pieces of cardboard in there, plus it'll hold up that piece of paper that I put with the cutouts in it. So I just took some cardboard strips, folded it, put it in there. It'll add some weight, like I said, and it's just good. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. These are some photos. Everything fixed together pretty well, although we're not going to be seeing all this. This is just the main bare bones. So next I started on the seat. I really love making the seats on any airplane I make. It's wonderful, because it's just awesome to see how a small person can just sit in this. It's fun. But anyway, I made the seat. I printed out templates. A lot of the pieces in this template I actually end up not using, because I'm so used to not using templates. I usually just go off of what I have in my head, but certain parts do need templates. But I started to detail up these things by cutting some holes in it, punching some holes, and making some template patterns on it, just to give the idea. Cause it's so small, but you know, just a hint at some controls or stuff like that. I did end up adding a throttle on it, and a while back I played virtual reality airplane simulator, so I have an idea of how a cockpit should look like. So I'm just going off of my mind and a few reference pictures, but really for this build on the cockpit I'm not using much reference pictures, which is actually not that good. It's always important to look at reference photos so you know what you're doing. When it comes to cutting out tiny parts like this, it's so important to have a very sharp X-Acto blade. I use the number 2 blades, I think that's what they're called for X-Acto knives, but there's a lot of other precision knives out there. And I made a video about just basic paper model tools and stuff. I'm going to link it in the card above. Hopefully if I don't forget to link it, it'll be there. Anyway, so yeah, this is the seat. It's looking pretty good. I did do some more detailing to it, although we're not going to be able to see it very well once it's done, but it just feels good in your soul when you make it with details. Anyway, so for the top, I cut out the rest of the parts. I scored them so I could do it easily. You can see I tried to add some more detailing into this one. And in the last when the last Nighthawk I made, the 1/32 scale, it had some issues with this part. You couldn't see it, but in person it was just skewed. So I revised the templates, did it all new, and as you can see I'm trying to do a cutaway design, and that's why I cut that gash in the side. So you should be able to see some detailing in there or whatever. So I attached the side parts. Everything was fitting pretty well, and sometimes I think to myself, I wish the paper pieces were a bit bigger so I could just print a piece of template. But it's nice having parts to actually put together instead of just one huge part. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. The strength of it is pretty good. I'm happy with these templates that I designed, and I will link them below if I hit a certain number of subscribers. So I'm happy. You guys have been subscribing. Thank you so much. I'll try to do a good project. Comment below what you think I should build next, because next I'm planning on making a MiG-21 or something else, or like a train. I don't know why, but I just suddenly that popped in my head. But anyway, there's the detailing on that gash that I made. As you can see, I just put some, it looks like nanotech or something. That's not realistic at all. But yeah, that's what I did. It looks okay. It looks like something sci-fi. I don't know how that could even fly. That rhymes. Anyway, yep, those are pictures. It's pretty nice pictures. Then I made the tail fins, the bottom details. I'm really happy with how the bottom details turned out. Those like cutout style. But yeah, there's some gaps in it. But anyway, there's the cockpit, not the cockpit, the canopy. I always like making the canopy on any F-117 Nighthawk. And that's one of the reasons why I like the F-117, because if I'm making a paper model, imagine if I tried to make an F-16 where it has like a bubble canopy. How would I do that with paper and still hold that paper vibe to it? Pretty hard. So that's something to consider when you're picking a model to make. You have to think what materials you want to use and what compromises you're willing to make. Anyway, so then I made the cowling for the engines. I cut them out as always. I'm pretty close up with my hands. I cut it. Made it. These pieces, guys, is the hardest part for me to design in Inkscape, because it has to line up with everything else on the model. I've spent so much time figuring it out, trying to figure it out to make it fit well on the part, but it turned out okay. Still not perfect, still some revision to go, but it looks okay, and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. As you can see, it lines up okay with the rest of the model. Now I just have to glue it in. So then I started to make the engines. So for the cutaway design on the engine cowling, I wanted you to be able to see a bit of the engine inside of it. So I made this engine. It's really simple. I could have done some more detailing to it, but for now I think it pulled off pretty well, just to give that idea of some innards inside of this plane, this jet. So I did it. It came out looking so good. I was so pleased with how it turned out. I didn't expect it to turn out this good, to be honest. And I got this airplane book with some cutaway drawings in it and stuff, so I just thought it would be really cool to make a model that reflected that, with like some cutaways and stuff where you could get a more in-depth view inside this airplane. So it was a little rough, so I glued a second top part of it on, and the templates now is pretty much done. I just had to make the wings. So the wings also took some time. They weren't as easy as it looks when it's done and clean. But I designed it in Inkscape, as always the latest version of Inkscape, printed it, and I began to build. So as you can see, they have a grayish hue on them. I didn't mean it to be that way. My printer just did that, or maybe I accidentally painted them gray in Inkscape. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, I cut them out, as always, using a sharp knife. I cut out this circle. I did it very poorly, but it's okay. I scored it, bent it. It's always satisfying to bend those pieces when you score them nice and gently. You want to make sure you don't score it too deeply, because then you have to redo the whole part, and that's just a pain. So then I took some black foam. I cut out some pieces of black foam because I wanted to slide that inside. Anyway, I was making a different project before, and I had this wing, and it was another cutaway model I was planning to make. So I took the parts from that and I cut it down to size, and I thought I would use it for this wing in this F-117 Nighthawk model. So it turned out okay. It's not ideal to reuse parts like that, just butcher from another airplane to use it, but it's okay, and it ended up looking really good, and no one questioned it. So obviously it turned out okay. So now I just had to glue them in. I tried to add a lot of foam inside of them just to give it that extra weight I was talking about. It makes it feel more professional, more pro, more good, or whatever. So I glued them in. The fit on this model it's not up to scratch where I'd like it to be. Everything looked kind of slopped together, but it was okay. It's just the fit wasn't ideal. That's it for this project on this channel. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you reached this far, thank you so much. I have a lot more things planned, have some ideas. Subscribe, and thank you for watching.